The title today is Want to Change the World? Do it. And that's what that reading's all about. Is we have available to us limitless power. And so we're gonna look at that today. What do we mean by do it? What can I do? I'm one person in an entire, sea of humanity and so before we start looking at that, I'm just going to take a few steps back. And I'm gonna go back a little nostalgia for a minute. Because as far back as I can remember for myself, there's always been this drive and this desire for me that I want to make the world a place where it's fair. I can remember getting into arguments with my dad, even as a little kid, when he was not someone you argued with, that's not fair, whatever it was. And And that grew into as I grew and started what I consider my conscious spiritual journey. One of the first concepts I learned as I was working with a woman who was a Native American shaman, that we are all one. We're all related. And so a question that I can ask myself at any moment in time, and I invite you to ask yourself this as you're in your day. Do you go about your day with a conscious awareness that everything is interconnected? And if you don't, I invite you to take a moment and just be in the silence for, even if it's a minute, 30 seconds, whatever it is, and just be open to seeing all the interconnectedness within you. It can be something as simple as you hear something on the news that happened, in I don't know, outer Mongolia or something, and suddenly you're reminded of some personal encounter that it brings you back to remembering something else in your past. And when we look at this from a like from this larger new thought, and you look at all of the people who've written about this. Ernest Holmes talks about it. Fillmore, Ernest Holmes was our founder. Charles Fillmore was and his wife Myrtle were the founders of the um, Unity Church. And their teacher, Emma Curtis Hopkins, and so many more, all talk about in their own ways this holistic nature of life, this connectedness. And in this little nostalgic journey I'm taking, when I learned about something from the Buddhist and Hindu traditions called Indra's net, it made even more sense to me. Because in the Native American, they're talking about we're all on this web of life, and whatever you do in one part of the web affects the rest. And if you've ever watched a spider web, you can see how when a bug falls into it, that it sends a ripple out through, and wherever the spider is on that net, it knows that something has touched its net. Indra's net is is this great net that encompasses the whole universe, and that every junction, every connecting point, there is a jewel. And that jewel, each jewel reflects all the other jewels. And so to me, that added another level of understanding of what it means that we are all interconnected, that every point is linked, and that any tremor, any movement on that net has an echoing effect across the entire net, the whole. And when I take that and turn it into an image, it comes out to be a world where nothing stands alone by itself. Everything has an effect. And I looked at what's the difference between connection and interconnection. Well, connection is that one thing links to another. And that there's an effect. And when we talk about interconnection, it goes that level deeper, that Indra's net, the jewels at every connection point that reflects the what the light from all other jewels on the net. interconnection is that system where not only is everything connected, but everything influences everything else, that there is that ripple effect, there is that echo. And that's what that reading that Bob read for us, where it says, how much of this infinite good is ours to use? All of it. And how much of it can we use? As much as we can embody. So the more we use it, the more it has an effect. And it changes the pattern on that net. It changes what's being reflected everywhere else. And there's an example, and I'm not going to get into the politics of it, the right, the wrong, or anything, but there's this conflict going on in the Middle East, and it's raising the price of barrels of oil. And that ripple effect goes throughout the entire economy. Higher prices for fuel affects transportation. Transportation costs go up, and that affects anything that's transported, no matter how it's transported. It affects everything. And then so it affects the entire economy. And then that comes back and affects our personal household budget. So there is a ripple effect that happens. And that one's a big one. And unless you are totally blanked out to any kind of communication about news or anything, you're at least seeing gas prices rising at your local gas station. So I can ask myself do I really want to still change the world? And what comes back is absolutely. Because what I know is that my outer experience is a reflection of what's going on inside of me. It's a reflection of how much of that infinite good do I embody? Do I accept? Am I willing to do that inner work for? If you were here last week, I talked about the lens that we have to hand polish as we find the flaws that are causing the light to come through differently than the way we want to. In Living the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says, we are born to be happy, to live creatively, to love, to sing, to dance, and to express ourselves to the full. That is our birthright. And so I'm going to take another, we're going to move into this teaching, and I'm going to go back to some basics. Because underlying everything that we teach is this concept of oneness, that there is no separation. Not only is there no separation from this infinite good other than what we create, there is no separation as we exist in Indra's net, in the web of life that the Native Americans talk about. And another piece of this is that everything is created in mind first. It's created in the invisible. It's an idea. And then it comes into form through us, through our perception, through our lens. It comes into form, into manifestation, whatever word you want to use. It becomes our experience. When we start using some of the tools that we have, like mental equivalent, visioning, visualization, using spiritual mind treatment, the affirmative prayer that we teach, affirmations, working with a licensed practitioner, what we can do is start to live by design and not live by default. Not be led, not be, pulled around in our life by chance or outside sources. It's that seed, soil, and plant. If I pick some seeds and I know that they are tomatoes and I put those seeds in the soil, if I just leave them there, I leave it to chance as to whether they are going to grow or not. But if I become that gardener, if I become the one who makes sure that the soil is enriched, it has the right nutrients in it. I pick out the weeds, which are those negative thoughts that keep us from allowing an idea to take form, or to take form the way we want it to be, the way we would like for it, the way our heart and our soul desires it to be. But if I nurture that soul, if I take that time, if I do that inner work, if I do what needs to be done to create that experience that I desire for myself and for others. Polishing the lens, however, what happens is the better I take care of the soil, the more wonderful the tomatoes are when they grow. And what I know is if I plant that tomato seed, I'm going to get tomatoes. If I plant daffodil bulbs, I know I'm going to get daffodils. And that's the idea that we have. And the more we understand what it is that we desire, the more we are open to what it is that we desire. The more we can work on changing our experience, our outer experience, and then that we become one of those jewels, and it has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect throughout all of humanity. And every other jewel starts to reflect that goodness that we put out there, that wholeness that we create for ourselves. Because, again, it is our birthright to be happy, to live with creativity, and to self-express. Because one thing I know to the depths of my soul, to the core of my, the marrow in my bones, the core of my being, is that each and every one of us, myself included, because sometimes, it's a little harder. Sometimes we can exclude ourselves. Every one of us, right here, right now, everyone who hears my voice is a unique, individualized expression of that infinite good that Holmes was talking about. I mean, and this concept is not new. We call it new thought, but it's not new. It goes back. It goes way back. I mean, as far back as Aristotle, and even before Aristotle, because he learned it from others too. Aristotle said to live happily is an inward power of the soul. That's what our soul wants, is to live happily. And so it goes back millennia. So it's up to us to embrace that joy, the creativity, and the authenticity in our life and do what we need to do. There was a quote that I found from Barack Obama that just kind of sums it up for me. And it says, change will not come. So change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. We are the change that we seek. And then there's, also the be the change you want to see. And how can we do this? What power do I have? I'm only one person. Well, I have, and you have the power of love. Not what we think of sometimes as that emotion love or that physical love or whatever. It's this unconditional love that is greater than I can even comprehend. But what I can do is live to it, because that kind of love can transform a challenge into an opportunity to grow and become more resilient. And when all of us, when each of us starts to approach life with a loving mindset, it actually helps us to see beyond the obstacles, or in our jargon, if you will, is to see beyond the effect, see beyond that outer experience. And what it is to really to be able to look at that outer experience that I'm seeing and allow myself to let go of the ego, look through what the ego is trying to tell me. And what is it in me that is supporting that? I may not like the word that is creating this experience because there's so many outside forces, but I'm allowing that experience. Because again, when I come with a loving mindset, we all can find solutions that foster understanding and harmony. When we come from that loving mindset, we unite people. And we can emotionally support and encourage ourselves and others, even in the face of adversity. We feel that sense of connection. We can feel the reflection from all the other jewels. And then we can put that other reflection back out. And the key to this is seeing the divine in others. And when we come from this loving mindset, when we embrace and embody that power of love, what happens is seeing the divine in others doesn't just become a, oh yeah, there's a divine person. Oh, there's a unique individualized expression of the divine walking around, or say to somebody, you're whole, perfect, and complete just as you are right now. What it does is the seeing the divine in others becomes an actual spiritual practice. It becomes a spiritual practice. And when we start doing that, and giving ourselves that opportunity, knowing that there's a reason it's called a spiritual practice, because we are learning to do it. No matter how good we are at it, there's always room for improvement. And when you first start out, don't take the person who's the most opposite from you, the one that you have a hard time judging. It's a good one to start with, but you got to give yourself some grace that it's not going to, you're not going to immediately, embrace them in love. Start with those that are around you, those that you already have some love for. Because as we do this, we build trust. We build trust in ourselves. We build trust with other people. It deepens the relationships that we have. And that there's this sense of fulfillment and joy when you can see that. And the compassion and the empathy that are part of this power of love, they inspire us to lift others up, to lift ourselves and to lift each other up. Because love is the foundation of both personal and collective strength. Now, there's some research that was done years ago. Psychology. There was a psychology, not a retreat, a conference, and there were about 200 people there. And one day they handed an uninflated balloon out to everybody and asked them to put their name on it. And they collected them up. And, at some point during the day, they said, okay, we're going to do an exercise. And so they had these 200 people go into a room, and these balloons were scattered everywhere. And you had 10 minutes to find your name. And so in that 10 minutes, a few people found their names, but it was absolute chaos. It's 200 people were going in there and checking every balloon and trying to find their name. And so then when they stopped it, pulled everybody back out, said, drop the balloons, come on back out. Whether you found your name or not, come on back out. Now what we want you to do is go into that room. And when you pick up a balloon, give it to the person whose name is on it. And you know what? All 200 people had the balloon with their name on it by the end of the 10 minutes. They were cooperating. They were doing it. And it's an analogy for that loving mindset. Rather than me, I got to find it. Oh my God, I got to do this. I've been told I have to do this. It's like, oh, so Elaine, here's your name. And somebody gives me Jackie's name, and somebody else gives Jason his name. And at the end, everybody has their name on the balloon. So another quote from Ernest Holmes from Science of Mind on page 135. He says, each of us is an expression of the divine. And when we recognize that in another, love becomes inevitable. Love becomes inevitable when we start to recognize, that expression of the divine in others. And I would add to that, go look in a mirror and see the divine in that reflection. And we have so many tools in our spiritual toolbox that can help us with this. We have the tool of visioning, whereas visioning opens you up to what is that spirit's highest expression of itself as me, or as whatever it is that I'm going to be doing. We also have visualization, which is different, where we build that mental, or as Dr. Trish always would say, and I really like this because it's essential, because it's not just the picture, it's also the feeling. You build that in your mind. What does it look like? And more importantly, what does it feel like when I'm envisioning this, when I am doing this visualization tool? Because it is a feeling. When we know we're there, we'll know that we're there. And that creates this mental equivalent or sensual equivalent of what it is. And that's using our imagination, which is one of the biggest tools that we have. As I mentioned last week, Einstein used his imagination to see what would it be like if I were traveling at the speed of light. And an entire theory of general relativity came out of that. And many of the great scientists and inventors like Edison and Niels Bohr and Einstein would tell you that when they would go into the silence. Some people would think they were sleeping, but they would go into that silence to allow that imagination to just go, just to run, just to go where it would, to build that mental equivalent, that sensual equivalent of what it was that they were going at, that they wanted to have. Power of love. It's the power of love, using the tools that we have. Spiritual mind treatment is another, which is the type of affirmative prayer that we teach here. It's a prayer where we recognize this vastness, this boundlessness, this limitless, infinite good that Bob read about to us today. And then we connect ourselves with that. We recognize that we are of that. We are an expression of that. And then we state in the affirmative what it is we desire. And then we give gratitude. We go into gratitude and thanksgiving. And then we just let it go into this thing that we call the law. Because love, when we come from love, when love is what points the way. And it's the law that allows it to happen, that brings it into our outer experience. So there's a song that I couldn't find it so that I could get it into our yeah, PowerPoint presentation, but I'm sure as soon as you hear a little bit of it, all of us, anyone who's ever seen definitely the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I just haven't seen the one with Timothy Chalamet, but I'm sure they use this song too. It's called Pure Imagination. Come with me and you'll see. And so now we probably all have it in our head. But in the refrain, it says, anything you want to, do it. Want to change the world? There's nothing to it. Well, what if there was nothing to it? What if it was easy? What if that nothing was just opening our minds to the possibility of profound joy, not just for us, because for us, and that profound joy that we allow for ourselves just ripples out through the web of life, through Indra's net to everyone else. What if the nothing is a better reality? If you're interested in I'm not going to repeat them all here, but on our website is what we believe in and what we envision. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about recognizing this power that we have and then using it to create this world where not only we live in joy, but systems and everything gets created around that we're all loving divine creations whose birthright, all of our birthright, is to be in joy. What if that nothing that was talked that Willy Wonka talks about is seen others in ourselves and seeing ourselves in others. What if believing that there is nothing to changing the world is the only thing that is keeping the world from changing? And what I mean by that is, what if we stop believing that we can't? Because I'm only one person. It's not going to affect anything. Yeah, I might, whatever. But and then do I deserve it? Of course you deserve it. Do you breathe? If you breathe, you deserve to be in joy. So what if that's the only thing stopping the world from changing is this belief that we can't? And so I say to you, as Henry Ford says, if you believe you can't or you believe you can, you're right. So what can I do this week? What can I do? I'm that one person. Well, you know what? However many are here right now, or however many people who listen to this after today, once we post it on YouTube, we're all one person. We're all one, and we are all connected. And so the more we do this for ourselves, the more it affects the world. So what can I do? Well, one thing each of us can do is when we wake up in the morning, is just set our intention for the day. What kind of day am I going to have today? When I first started in this teaching, I worked with a practitioner and we set it up so at 8:15 in the morning, because it was a convenient time for both of us, I would give her a call. And if she wasn't there, I'd leave her a message and tell her what my intention was for the day. What kind of day was I going to have? And I can tell you, as long as I stayed diligent, as long as I kept bringing myself back to this is my intention for the day, my day pretty much went the way I set my intention. No matter how much it looked like chaos or crumbling around me, it worked. So set our intention every day. And then practice kindness throughout the day. Even just pick one time, one point in time during the day where you can practice kindness. And some of the things, it's as easy as smiling at somebody or offering a genuine compliment or lending a helping hand when you may not do that otherwise. Or simply just listen to someone without any judgment and just let them talk to you. You can also take time, and if you're a people watcher, I love to watch people. So, sit and I'm okay if I have a long layover at an airport because I just love to watch people. And take time like that to see and name the good in people, because it's really easy for us to look and, criticize. And you don't have to necessarily tell people, just for yourself, because the more you can name the good in others, you don't see it if you don't have it. So if you can name the good in somebody else, that's me too. We can also, if you take that opportunity to engage in some kind of community service, we can make a conscious effort to understand the perspective of someone different from ourselves, has a different viewpoint of life than us. And another thing we can do is plant positive thoughts wherever we can. Even if it's just as much as the group I'm with are sitting there and going into, negative talk and stuff, and I just don't join in. Do what's comfortable. Do what pushes your comfort a little bit, because every time you push it, your boundary moves out, and it becomes easier and easier and easier. And that's what I suggest today. So before I end, I want to leave you with a poem that I found by Emmett Fox, who he was a contemporary of Ernest Holmes. He was in the Unity Church. He was a minister at the Unity Church. And he has a poem that he calls Love. And I gift this to you. There is no difficulty that enough love will not conquer. No disease that enough love will not heal. No door that enough love will not open. No gulf that enough love will not bridge. No wall that enough love will not throw down. No sin that enough love will not redeem. It makes no difference how deeply seated may be the trouble, how hopeless the outlook, how muddled the tangle, how great the mistake. A sufficient realization of love will dissolve it all. If only you could love enough, you would be the happiest and most powerful being in the world. You are a powerful being in the world because you are love. You are a unique, individualized expression of the infinite good. And so my declaration today is that God is all there is. We are all one of God, and that we are that love, and that love expresses itself more openly and more fully this week. I am grateful to know this, and I just place this in the hands of the law because love has shown the way, and we'll let law bring it into manifestation in our experience. Thank you so much. Yeah, and so it is. Thank you.